Welcome to Girl Dad Nation. I'm a dad of three daughters, and I started this podcast to learn from other dads of daughters and just share amazing stories about being a girl dad, the ups, downs, and all of the life in between. Today I am joined with Ben Bashinski. I got to know him through social media. There is an amazing video going around with him bringing his daughter on her first flight, and he was the pilot of the flight. And so it was an amazing first experience for both of them, I'm sure. But great to reach out to him and great to have this follow-up story with pilot Ben Bashinski. Ben, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Girl Dad Nation. And you're a new dad. How old is your daughter?
She is 14 months in a couple of days. And she's the first one. So like you said, we're very new to this.
And I loved all the smiles, all the reactions from the video that was going around social media. What was that moment like for you to bring your daughter to work with you as a pilot on her first flight?
It was awesome. So just a slight correction. So it wasn't her first flight at that
Oh, okay.
at the time. It was her 19th actual flight. So she'd been flying for a while, but it was her first flight with me as the pilot.
Okay.
So I had always wanted to fly my wife Hannah, but never gotten a chance to at my old airline. And it just so happened that this flight it was my initial experience at Southwest. It was the last day. It was a 2-part trip. So I had like a 3-day trip, a day off in Denver, and then another 3-day trip. And we live in Chicago. So the last leg of the 3-day trip, had a stop in Midway, which is, a Southwest hub in Chicago. And it so happened there was one seat available, and we were able to get Hannah and Ellie on. So, we didn't get our hopes up that it was going to happen, but, the gate agent was awesome in making sure that we were able to get them on, and we got them on early so they could get a spot up front. So, I could see them before we flew, and then we got to hang out in Denver afterwards. And, flying is fun, but, when you get a chance to bring your daughter on board, your first flight with her, it's a good time. And, I'm glad we got it on video. I don't think we expected to get the attention that it did. We just thought it was fun and cute. But we love that, the video now is a memory that we get to, share going forward. And probably the best part about it really is kind of going through those comments and looking at people, mention really all kinds of stuff, but mostly a lot of the great things were, man, that's going to be a safe flight with, the precious cargo on board, or, that's going to be a smooth landing. And, it was going through those, and, people mentioning just, kind of how proud I was, or how proud I looked holding her, which, I think reflected how proud I was to be there, one, working my dream job, but two, getting to share that with my family. I was brand new to Southwest at the time, so that was all brand new to me. So to be able to kind of share that with my family at the same time was, it was awesome. It was awesome. So I got to, while people were boarding the plane, I was holding her, and I got her like a little pilot onesie, which,
Oh, that's so cute.
yeah, she's very cute in it. But everyone's asking like, "Oh, you flying the plane?" It's like, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, why would she wear this pilot outfit if she wasn't flying? But for a lot of people, flying can be really stressful, so getting on the plane is not their favorite experience. So when they see, adorable Ellie there, as they're boarding the plane, you can just kind of see their whole demeanor shift. Like they just they literally everyone, from kids to, older adults, everyone just lights up whenever they see her, and kind of seeing that effect on people is just a great time. So that was still the only time I've been able to do it, but looking forward to hopefully do it again at some other point. So
That's great. Yeah, such a great moment, I'm sure. And I want to go back too with the correction that you made with how many times has she flown before that moment?
so that was her 19th flight. So 18
19
previous
times.
times, and
I
she's
don't think I've even flown 19 times
I
in
mean, it
my
was, yeah.
life, but wow.
It's working for an airline has its perks for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, all those flights have been, well, not all of them. She had a few work trips that she went on with Hannah, where she was a paid lap child, I guess. Hannah bought the ticket, but 90% of those flights are standby, which is a whole different breed of flying and its own
Mhm.
kind of stressor. So, but yeah, if you don't have to pay for the ticket, it makes it a lot easier to be able to bring them on board and kind of be like, hey, what are we doing this weekend? I don't know. Let's see where seats are open, or go visit our
Yeah.
family in Georgia and stuff, and just kind of bring her along. So, and she's had 5 more since then, so she's at 24 right now. So
Great. Is she already at frequent flyer status then? Like
I guess she
gets
would be, but
complimentary drinks and the red carpet and all that
well, yeah,
stuff.
she gets all the milk she can drink,
Yeah.
and but mom and dad will sometimes, as passengers may partake in something harder, since traveling with a baby isn't always a stress-free experience. So, but no, when you fly standby, unfortunately, no points are accrued. So the perk is flying standby. So she doesn't get any lounge access or anything as a result of her, Diamond Elite
Yeah.
status or whatever.
So
So,
first time being the pilot for the flight with your daughter, like, yeah, what were the nerves? Did you have any nerves like taking off? I know like for myself, I'm not a pilot, but even leaving the hospital, putting the kid in the car seat in our car, I'm like the drive home was like a different experience. Like I'm like watching the speed, I'm like looking over my shoulder to make sure like I'm defensive driving like every stoplight and everything.
man,
Yeah.
I mean, looking back at that moment, I would say I was way more stressed driving home from the hospital the first time than flying. So, there's not we don't we don't do any simulators for driving the baby home. We don't practice worst case scenarios for that. Whereas we do in the airplane. So, and there's the advantage of having a very experienced captain sitting next to you, who's since it was an evaluation flight for me anyway, so he's specially trained captain, particularly for brand new first officers. Um, so that helps, ease the nerves. But honestly, once you add power and start to fly, you kind of forget about everything else going on, and just kind of focus on the work. So, uh, and I probably didn't really even think about it again until we were kind of getting into Denver. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I get to grab her afterwards and see how she did. So, yeah, I would say there are way greater stressors in the fatherhood journey than that flight. Um, so yeah.
Great. And I honestly don't know too much about like the whole pilot world, like the different ranks, different trainings, all of that. But yeah, how would you describe like where that intersects between like your journey as a career as a pilot and becoming a father, and then just like what the work environment is? How do you balance, uh, yeah, your job? Because I'm sure it's not always 9 to 5. Like,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
how do you balance all of that with a young family?
I would say it's a complicated answer, because it's both easy and it's really tough. Um, the whole reason I picked the flying, I'm a second career guy. So I was in the Army for 9 years active before I got out to get my pilot's license. So that I think is way harder to balance work life, as opposed to flying. In the Army, I was gone, probably a third of the time just on deployments, not to count,
Mhm.
trainings or being in the field or anything like that. So that is really hard on families. And they say you're like a soldier 24/7. So
Yeah.
you can, they can kind of call you at any time to be like, hey, your soldier messed up. You need to come bail him out of jail or something. They don't do that at the airlines. When you get home, no one's calling you on your day off, telling you need to come in or anything, unless you really messed up or something. But uh, now the reason I got out of the Army was because I wanted to have more time off. I wanted to be able to start a family. And I doing that on active duty with the cycle I was on, it was just, there's no way to like invest yourself fully and do that at the same time, at least not for me.
Mhm.
So I got out knowing that I wanted to spend more time at home. And now that I'm at Southwest, where when you're doing a full flying line, you kind of average 18 days off a month, like full days off. They don't call you. You don't have to respond to emails. Um, you're at home. Uh, so yeah, you're gone 12 days out of the month. So that's not great. But as long as and I'm still new at Southwest. I was at a regional airline before where I worked a little bit more, and I was trying to build time while I was there, so I could get to Southwest quicker. So I was picking up a lot of extra flying and stuff just to get hours. So I was gone way more back then than I am now. But um, now, we average like 3-day trips pretty much. So I'll leave in the morning, be gone 2 nights, and come back the third day, like in the afternoon or so. Um, so you're really only gone like 2+ days. Um, when I'm gone, like my wife Hannah is amazing at FaceTiming with me when like Ellie's going to bed, or they're eating or something like that. And with just technology in general now, she's always sending me pictures about whatever they're doing. That first moment when like Ellie actually noticed me on FaceTime and could like recognize me, and
Yeah.
she would just like light up. I mean, that was probably like 3 months ago now. And it was just, dude, that was life changing. So before, like, she's like, oh,
Yeah.
sweet, this like light up little box. That's exciting. But then as soon as she could like really see me, and you could see her like react, that was awesome. And then like conversations are actually, fun with her now, even if she's not conversing, she's still babbling and squealing and just
Mhm.
grabbing the phone and shaking it and stuff. Um, but Hannah is just instrumental in kind of ruling the roost while I'm gone, and making sure that everything's taken care of. And I can't speak for everyone in the industry and say it's the same thing, because everyone's relationship is different. But it would be really hard doing this without a partner like Hannah. She's, while I'm getting paid for the work I'm doing while I'm gone, she is working just as hard, if not harder, because I have a limited duty day, that I'm legally allowed to fly, and then after that I've got to be done.
Yeah.
Hannah, there's no, she can't clock out and say I'm good. So she's working way harder for a lot less pay, um, but is just amazing and doing all of it. So when I come home, I do everything I can to kind of take the load off her a little bit. But we are still trying to figure out uh, you know how we kind of still take some time to ourselves when I get home. So yeah, I love taking Ellie when I get home, and catching up with her, but I still need some time to sort of reset, do my own laundry, uh, just breathe, because I'm not at work anymore. And Hannah needs the same thing too, so we're trying to figure out that actual balance of, all right, I'm home for this 3 or 4 day stretch. All right, let's figure out what this routine is. So we're still kind of figuring out that, but it'll come. So
What has been the hardest transition for you, or something that you heard like, or like you've never heard before you became a parent that like you had to learn on the job, so to speak?
ooh.
And you're still like in a very new stage of it, which I think is awesome. Like my youngest is 18 months right now, and so she's like just starting to walk, which is really amazing. And she babbles a little bit, like she knows words like mommy, dada, but she's not quite putting like full words or sentences together. But she's very responsive. Like she has sign language for wanting water
Mhm.
and more food and that kind of stuff. So that's all really cool to see those milestones as a parent.
I would say, what I'm learning to be present more, I would say. If that's where you're kind of going with that question. Like before, before we had Ellie, I could come home from work and, if I needed to, I could just, go chill on the couch, make a drink, play video games or whatever, and just zone out. Or, pull out my phone and just, doom scroll for hours. It didn't matter. Um, but now, now with tiny eyes watching, even now, like we don't like we don't really let her do screen time yet. So we don't
Mhm.
give her an iPad or a phone to play with or anything. Like literally the only time she's on the phone is to FaceTime. Um, but even then, she's still, and we try to limit ourselves. Like we don't allow phones at the table, and
Mhm.
with her, we try not to be on our phones at all. But even then, like she'll still she still like dives for our phones like in the morning. Like if we bring her in, she'll see our phones on the bedside table and she just like lunges for them because she knows they're important to us, uh,
Mhm.
or at least they appear important, right? So I have to be way way more cognizant of one, just being present in general, making sure I'm a big part of her life, even if I feel like I have other stuff going on or if I feel like there's something important I got to do. But also, while I'm with her, making sure that her perception of me being present is of me actually, being with her and focusing on her and not just sitting there, but I'm on the computer or scrolling on my phone or whatever, trying to, do whatever. And I am lucky because, I don't have a bunch of emails I've got to reply to or anything like that. There's no work emergencies going on that I've got to immediately resolve while I'm at home, which is an absolute blessing with this career field. But I would say that's something I'm definitely, still working on. And, that she's really teaching me is like,
Yeah.
hey, like I see you with your phone, like, no, 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 I'm over here. And then she'll come take it from me and run away. Or, well, you know, waddle away, I guess. So,
It's cute. Yeah,
but
it's amazing how perceptive kids can be with
great.
things that we put our attention to, with even the way that we communicate. Like phrases that I tell my wife, like they start to repeat for better or worse. But that's why I think it's really important that we have to be careful about what kind of words and what kind of phrases we use. And so, like, I'm trying to always be appreciative of my wife and,
Yeah.
like, in front of my kids, thank her for all the things that like she does and say like, yep, like look at how wonderful it is that mommy like is going to work and she's going to help people today. My wife's a social worker. And so like being trying to be present too and ask in front of my kids like how was your day and like what did you do today, and so that they see that those things are important to me. And then when I ask them of my kids, like they're more receptive to sharing those kinds of things. And then like I always try to tell them like how proud I am of them, and then trying to, it's also kind of hard too because like uh like I work in video production, and so sometimes it's easier for me to take work home with me. It's probably less like like something that you don't really like, you can't really fly a plane remotely. I imagine, I don't know, maybe in
Yeah,
10
I mean,
years they
yeah,
can.
yeah, yeah,
At least when I fly, I want to make sure that there's somebody in the plane that knows how to fly it. So,
yeah. That is good job security for me. So please write to a
um, yeah, but I often can fall into the temptation of following up with emails or like uploading videos from home and things. And to then give my daughters the attention, like, okay, I can do this when they go to bed, or I can, like, at least if it's something urgent, say, Daddy has to do this. I need the next 20 minutes to finish this, but then devote like the time so that I'm fully present. Phones are away when we're doing story time and all those kinds of stuff. And I'm not perfect at it, but it's definitely a good reminder, something that I need to strive for.
No, absolutely. And Hannah's really good at calling me out too, because you know, when I'm on the road, you know, my phone's my only connection back to anyone, you know. So it's kind of
Mhm.
it's my lifeline, I guess. And I can just pull it out and, you know, send a quick text or whatever. And, you know, it's not a big deal, but I get in that habit and I'm back, come back home and do it. And it's like, oh
Yeah,
no, you know, phones are stay in the corner or whatever. And it's a big habit to break. But you know, to that point of them being perceptive in general, I mean, it's, you know, she's not talking yet, but she's in the parrot phase, and it's, you know, we'll we'll make noises or whatever, and she like immediately will parrot it back. So, like she'll you know, we'll sneeze, and then she actually just started doing this, I think like yesterday, 2 days ago. We'll sneeze into our arm or whatever, and she'll go
oh yeah,
5 or 6 times, and it's just funny what, you know, what they think we're doing, and then, you know, immediately parroting it back to us. Um, and Hannah and I, you know, if we disagree or whatever, you know, to your point of making sure that we, you know, make a show of, you know, this is how we talk about things. You know, if we disagree about something, you know, we'll make sure that Ellie sees us. Well, one, you know, we try not to do anything in front of her, but two, you know, if we say anything to each other, it's, you know, we make sure that Ellie sees us, you know, resolve it and talk about it. And then at the end of it, you know, no matter what it is, you know, we make a big show of hugging each other afterwards. And Ellie thinks like that family hug, and we always bring her in afterwards too. Ellie thinks that family hug is hilarious. Like she just always laughs. And we're like, all right, let's hug it out. And she's like,
that's
which
great.
is, you know, a great kind of cherry on top. It's like, okay, I guess, you know, that is the best possible outcome to, you know, um, to anything. So
I love that. I love the family hug too. Like that's so cool. And like my older kids, like we do like handshakes and high fives and
yeah,
knuckles and like, and even like the youngest is like learning how to do knuckles.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then sometimes the oldest they'll initiate it where they'll be like high five and to each other just on their own. And it's so cool to see.
yeah. You know, with her being our first, we're still like, we'll catch ourselves doing stuff and go like, oh, should have said that,
Yeah.
or whatever. You know, we can't just say whatever we feel like anymore.
Mhm.
So we're still, you know, sanding down those rough edges around her, and hopefully hopefully not making too bad of an impact as a result. But you
Yeah.
know, second time will be perfect, I'm sure. So
Yeah. With each kid, like you're like, okay, let's refine and do
yeah.
different things. Like I
Or
remember yeah.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, or you know, at the flip side is, you know, you just stop caring, and then you're like, oh wait, no, we actually, this is something we did have to pay attention to the first time. We need to make sure we do that again, so that, yeah. Anyway, what were you
Yeah,
gonna say?
it's interesting how, yeah, each kid you change your perception. And we were kind of similar where we're like, yeah, no screen time and all these kinds of things. And like by the time we had our third, we're like, okay, like Disney Plus is your parent now. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
just need an hour to myself.
Yeah.
But uh yeah, but it's you know, kids turn out all right. I I think like I'm not going to criticize like anyone else's style of parenting and things, but I
No,
love having conversations with other dads and learning from them. Like that's the whole reason why I wanted to start this podcast, is to just take in as much advice and uh people like yourself, who are new on this journey, just like I am, to then I've had like dads who are now granddads and kind of learning from them where they're like, yeah, the way that like I interact with my granddaughter now is different than I raise my kids, but like they're like, I wish I raised my kids like this. And different things. So it's really cool just to like have this collective knowledge, and learn from other people and then adapt, because everyone's family situation is different. Your kids are different, and each of my kids, even though they all come from me, each one is different, and I have to adjust to like what their individual needs are.
no, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, I love that, you know, these days at least, there are resources like this that, we can go to. Whereas, I don't know how long ago, but, um, you know, guys looking for, information to become better dads may just not have been, you know, if it existed at all, just not as prevalent, right? So like, I have the new father book, that just is, based on the premise that there's all these books for mom, but what
Yeah.
about dad? So, all these questions that we have that directly answer, our questions, as opposed to us having to like parse information out of what to expect. And then, you doing podcasts like this, just having guys talk about being dads, um, and being able to, just talk about how proud they are and, share advice. I think we in general probably are not very good about seeking advice or,
Mhm.
asking questions or, admitting that we don't know something. But to, sort of have this resource that at least, can start the conversation and, help each other out. I think it's awesome. So thank you for kind of leading the way on that.
Oh, I appreciate that. And then, yeah, you also were in the army. Thank you for your service there. And I think about like, men, like we're naturally wired, I think, to like train and have this like duty and service, whether it's to our country or to our family. But like we put ourselves through like training and hardship, like when we're working out, when we're like in sports, when we like are trying to get a job, like all of these things. And how much more so should we be like putting the effort in to our role as fathers? And there's this great, I had the founder of this organization on my podcast. It's called Boot Camp for New Dads. And I've talked about it before on the podcast, but I had the privilege of being able to go through the boot camp before my first daughter was born. It was offered through our local hospital, where we would then give birth. And it was totally new to me. And I just am so fortunate that like it was presented to me as this opportunity. And it's the way that it's run is like on a Saturday typically, and for a couple hours new dads come, and then these veteran dads like they were in the program just a couple months before, but now they bring their kids, who are like I think between like 6 months and 12 months, but like these new dads after a couple months of being dads come in, and it's a peer-to-peer training boot camp. And you just get to ask them like, yeah, tell me everything that's in your diaper bag. Like
Yeah,
tell me the
absolutely. That's
shopping list before my child's born.
awesome.
Um, like what do I need to do, like packing for a trip with them or changing diapers. And then like whenever a kid needs a diaper change, like the whole room stops and everyone's focused and watching a dad like take out things from the diaper bag
Figure
and
it
like
out. Yeah.
learning how they change the diaper and then what to do with the dirty diaper and like all
Yeah.
that stuff. It's such a cool program. But I feel very blessed that these things are available now. And
Absolutely.
I feel honored to be in a similar space as the Girl Dad Nation podcast to like offer these resources to other dads. And then I'm often like the first to be like benefited from like these conversations. So I'm like, I do this mostly for me as a new dad. And then it's great that it's recorded and offered for other dads.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I was while you were talking about the boot camp thing, that just made me think like, probably normally, I don't have any prior experience to compare it to, but probably before guys probably just mostly ask, their dad. Like,
Mhm.
hey, what do you do here? But for a lot of people, that may not be the best reference, at best case scenario. But to like have, yeah, like scenarios like that where you have this instant community where you have all these brand new dads who just learned this stuff through a very steep learning curve, kind of share that knowledge is awesome. We did not we did not get a chance to do that when Ellie was born. She was born 6 weeks early, so I missed her birth because I was at a work trip because we weren't expecting her to show up for another month and a half. But so she had to stay in the NICU for 6 weeks to do some growing. But so my boot camp, I guess, was the NICU nurses being like, "Here's how to change a diaper. Here's how you feed a baby." So they were almost literally holding our hands while we were
Yeah.
trying to do this with a very small child. So that being said, I would not wish that experience on anybody. Opt for the boot camp.
Mhm.
Sounds a lot better.
Yeah, I remember like first time going home with the baby, like from the hospital, and I didn't have that nurse call button to be like, all right, like the baby's crying, and like I've tried everything. And but you have to learn quickly. Like it's totally on the job training. But yeah, it's great if you have the opportunity to like prepare yourself before, but then the reality is like there's so much that you just can't prepare yourself for.
Absolutely. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of training involved, to fly or whatever. And, before they let you fly with people in the plane, that there's hours and hours of, simulator, and there's an actual, check ride where you either pass or fail. And, there's a lot of gates that you have to go through in order to actually fly people. And at the end of the day, to have a baby, you just have them. And they're like, all right, go forth and do great things. Like, oh man, okay, thanks.
Yeah, you don't
So
really get like certified. You're like, okay,
there's
like
no, yeah, there's no,
you
there's no check
completed basic
ride.
training. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no certificate of competency that you can hang on the wall. So,
Yeah.
man, yeah. No, well,
Now, when your daughter has flown, does Southwest give out like the little like pins, the
they
wings?
do. So it looks like this. This is actually not from that flight, but this is from when I was flying Southwest after my interview, and told them I got the job. They said congratulations, but
Oh, very
now
cool.
that I think of it, we should have gotten a certificate that flight with Ellie. That'd have been awesome, but there is a lot of other stuff going on. But yeah, so they got little tiny plastic wings, a little Southwest heart on it, um, so that they can be their own little pilot. But
Oh, that's great.
yeah, so yeah, Southwest is awesome about fun stuff like that by giving you a certificate for your flight and stuff, and making you feel part of the
Yeah.
family. And when we were flying with her, it was, you know, I brought her down early, of course, and introduced her to the captain and the crew, and it just everyone could not be nicer and more inclusive and excited for us. Honestly, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the reaction too when you brought your daughter, just like even, the passengers coming through and being greeted by a baby that's just all smiles and then it puts a smile on
Yeah,
your face. And just the welcoming community behind that. And we had a very similar experience. like the times that we've flown with our daughters, not 19 times,
Hey, man.
but yeah, but every time like we've flown Southwest, like the flight crew is always just super nice, very accommodating, which is very reassuring as a young parent, especially because you're like, oh man, but like we typically have more stuff to pack. You got all the bottles and
It's
diaper
ridiculous.
changing
Yeah.
things and like,
So much stuff.
and then yeah, then you just hope that they're going to be behaved during the trip and not get fussy and everything. But usually like yeah, everyone's super nice. And that's been really cool that like and then yeah, there'd be people like on the flight much older than us that they were like, yep, like our kids are all grown now, but we remember like back in the day,
Yeah.
like they're like,
Yeah.
yep, this is just part of life right now as a parent. And most people are very like respectful and accommodating and yeah, like
No,
they get it,
absolutely.
which I appreciate.
Yeah. I mean, we've had Hannah flies with her by herself a good amount. And it's a lot of that would not be possible without, people in the airport being willing to help her. Cause I mean, like you said, it's a ton of stuff. And whether I'm there or not, it's the same amount of stuff. So you can see her just like trudging through the airport with, just like a pack mule, car seat, stroller, diapers, everything. Um, and it's, yeah, a lot of goodwill from flight crews, kind of making sure she can get seated and comfortable. And, so a big shout out to all of them for all that they do. They work really hard to help out, and we could not be more appreciative of all that.
That's great. Well, yeah, this interview's coming to an end, but I do want to have you back to do an episode about your tips as a pilot for flying with kids.
Absolutely.
Um, so I'd love to get to that interview, but to wrap this up, I wanted to give you an opportunity as a dad to Ellie to leave a special message for your daughter and pretend like I'm not here. Anything you want to tell Ellie.
Okay. Hi, Ellie. This is your dad. Uh, I want to apologize for not being there at the very start. It was not my fault, but I did try to get there as quickly as possible. And I wish I could say that would be, the only life event I'm going to miss. But, due to the career choice, probably not the case. But know that when I'm home, I cherish every moment I get to spend with you. Um, and I look forward to, making tons more memories with you, either by being your pilot or by just, getting to jet set around the world with you and make all those awesome memories. By now, you've probably seen the video of us online. Again, I will say that is not going to be the only time I'm going to embarrass you in front of people. So just get used to it. That's what your mom and I are here to do is have a good time, sometimes at your expense. Sorry, but we do it because we love you. So I would say I'm sorry for those moments, but I'm not. That's just kind of part of it. So we love you. We're excited to see the person you become, and getting to, travel all over the world with you. Love you.
I love that.
Was that okay?
That's great. Thank you so much.
Oh
Awesome,
man.
Ben. It's been amazing talking to you. It's so cool to get to connect with you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure like that video was, just one of many amazing experiences that you're going to build with your daughter. Yeah, you have so much to look forward to. Thank you for being part of Girl Dad Nation. And I want to thank all of my listeners out there. Thank you for the support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this. If this has impacted you, please share the podcast with a friend. Also, like and review on Apple Podcasts. All of your reviews just help get the word out for this podcast. I really appreciate that. And you can reach me directly at girldadnationpodcast@gmail.com. Also, in the description, you could click send me a message and you can text me a comment, a show. Sometimes, like, I'll do a shout out. But yeah, you can reach me that way in the description. And then if you'd like to support the show as a monthly supporter, click support the show in the description, and your donation of $3 a month goes to support the show. And there's some other perks. So I also have some merch available on the website, girldadnation.org. So you can rep Girl Dad Nation. It's also a great way to give a gift to a new girl dad. But thank you so much. I do this because I love my daughters so much. I try to be the best dad I can. And then I am honored to share these interviews, these conversations with the other dads out there. So thank you so much. And until next time, go be a dad.
Ai phải giờ đây?